so I think the first thing to understand is let's call it climatic and geopolitical situation that we have here in Israel. And I'm not referring to the latest news. I'm talking about on the very broad perspective. Israel is at the southern or eastern Mediterranean, which is a semi-arid region on the border of the desert. About more than half of the country is desert, and even the rest, the north, is pretty dry at least most of the year, and the climate here was always very, very unexpected and very much you cannot really count on that too much. So from the very beginning, what is now called in many different places climate change was always the situation here. So from the very beginning, it was clear that in this kind of environment, water is and will always be a challenge. So that was the very basis of everything. And then if you add to that the geopolitical situation of Israel, which is practically an island, in meaning that we cannot rely or trust so much the resources coming from outside the borders. I mean, compared to the EU, with rivers running and water and other resources being exchanged, if you like, across borders, this is not the situation here, unfortunately. But this is how we must organize our water system, as if it's an island in the ocean. And by the way, this is also the case for some of the examples that we mentioned before. And the strategy in general has to be based on, one, that it's a very limited resource, two, that we have to rely on our own resources. Whatever we do, we have to we cannot import water, at least not in a major scale. So from the very beginning, for the founders of the state, it was clear that water is a very important and very basic thing for growing a nation. And if you add to that the fact that Israel has a very rapidly growing population, always have been, both for immigration but also for even today, high birth rates, very high, in fact, the highest in the OECD, and growing economy. The economy was growing fast over the past decades, or from the beginning. It's a pretty young country, or state, actually. It's a very old country, but a very young state. So everything we see now is just 70 something years old. And all that growth, economically, population, everything else, was happening very fast. So all that was in the basis of creating a national water strategy. And everything was put under one of the most basic laws in the Israeli system, which is called the water law, which was put together in the early 50s. And since then, it's still in force, although it has been updated several times. But the fundamentals of this law states or decides that all water within the country or around the country, underground, above ground, dirty, clean, even seawater, is a public domain. It belongs to the public. There is no private water in Israel. So the water belongs to the country and, of course, to the state that manages it for the public. And from that point, the state has full authority to manage, to allocate, to price, to do whatever is needed to make sure that water will be safe and available and at the right quality and quantity for every use throughout the years. And that is the fundamental. This is the basis of the pyramid on which everything else regarding water is built upon.